Hello and welcome to the second lecture of data analysis course. So in this second lecture, I am going to tell you another basic concept about where data is present. So as a data analyst in the first data analyst course, I have told you that what is data in the first slide where we looked at 5 different scenarios. In this, where data is present, I will going to tell you the location so that you know from where this data is originating, and I will give you some more in-depth examples as in companion along with all of these 3 examples which I will be showing you. So first of all, where data is present, why it is important to know, so that you know the clear source of data. Having data is not enough, but knowing from where it is generating or from who is generating this data becomes in a way that you can trust this data, right? So that way you can trust it and you can then use it further for your own usage, right? So where data is present, well, I'll tell you, data is present everywhere. That is not an issue, but who is really creating this data? Government. I'll show you some examples. Private companies and personal life, etc., right? And in the end, after I have shown you all these examples, I will ask you to basically go and research that other than these 3 places, what other places the data is present, and there are ample of places if you look at it. Okay, so example of data in government, I mean what kind of data that government is generating, or what kind of data that is present with government. For example, population number. In the first data analysis slide, I showed you that government collects the data about each and every individual. From there, they get to know about the population in each city, in each state, and the entire country, and they can frame the policies accordingly. Then bank account holder, education, there are government banks as well as private banks submit the data to government for their bank account holders or number of account holders that they are having. And then education, etc. Government runs various educational institutes, so they basically have this data. So what they do is, government employees day in day out, if you see, they keep making entries onto the computer, they keep making entries into the files, and so that is a way they keep collecting the data and updating it, right? So population number, bank account holders, education is just some of the examples in which government collects the data, right? Other examples which can come at the top of the mind is like subsidy, right? Subsidy to the poor that government provide is also one of the data where they know, okay, out of, let's say in case of India, out of 1.35 billion population, they have to provide the subsidy to, let's say, 1 billion of population, which is a huge number. And they may want to check that whether this is going to the right people or not. Usually, that's where the scam and other things comes in. So that's what it goes in, that first of all, data should be from the trustable source. And then once it is in trustable source, does it make sense, right? So that's where, coming back to the example, so this is where one of the examples or one of the scenarios. The second scenario is with the private companies. So for the private companies, what data they capture about the employees. For example, who is the employee, what's the name, what's the age, when the employee really started, what is the compensation, what is the designation, so on and so forth. A lot of data points that they capture about the employee. Projects in a company, always there is a number of projects which are going on in various different departments, like what is a project, and they capture the data like what is a project number, project name, project manager, sponsor, owner, budget, expense, location, whatnot, right? So that is where they basically keep the data related to the project. Finance and sales. Finance is all about that finance related to the project. Employees, because finance needs to take care of entire company finance, so that they basically checks like in which department, how many numbers of employees are present, how many, what is the budget of the department, and so on and so forth. They basically keeps it in the finance. Sales is also where, sales is bringing in a lot of new deals into the company. There are they are generating huge pipeline of the deals. They are closing the deals. They are bringing new customer, right? All that different things which is going on related to the sales is basically part of the sales department. So these are just some very high level idea about where the data is present. If you are, let's say, always curious that where the data is really present, who is creating it, well, it's the individual responsibility. In case of employees, it is basically HR department. In case of project, it is the individual department who is running the project. In case of finance, it's a finance department who does it. In case of sales, sales plus in combination of finance and employees like HR department, they capture the data, because in sales you have sales people who are nothing but the employees. So that's why HR comes in, and they are getting salaries. That's why HR comes in. But finance comes in because they get compensation out of it, right? For example, the sales incentives, the salaries, the budget, all of those things, from finance it goes. So sales as an individual department or a standalone department has the information about how many deals they are generating, how many new customers they are coming, and that type of information. But when it comes to HR and finance, these two departments basically creates the data for sales. So this is the example of the data in private organization. Now let's move on to the third one, which is personal life. Example of data in personal life: house budget. Every month, how much you are generating the expenses for example, in INR, if 10,000 is your threshold, then you can check that every month are you generating above 10,000 or below 10,000. If you are generating every month above, then you always want to know that why you are expanding more or making more expensive. Or if it is less, then you may want to know that with this saving, what else you can do, right? And second is income, is about year over year. What is the income that you are generating? If you are in business, you may want to know that every month what are the sales or how much expenses are running, so that at the end of the month, what is the income that you have generated. Travel, again, related to the travel, maybe you have a plan every 3 months or 6 months or once in a year, who knows, right? Depends on flexibility and the income level of the individual. You may want to capture the travel related information, and not just for 1 year. Let's say if you are really a good data analyst, you may be capturing it from over the years and analyzing like year over year, how much sales, how much travel expenses have really increased. But this is where the data is present with you, and then you have your marks in the slide 1 or in the first section or the first lecture. I have told you the example of your marks over a period of years, just to get an idea how good, average or bad one can be when they see their marks over a period of time, and also when you compare it with your peers, right? So that is where you are generating the data for yourself. Now, in each of these scenarios, can you think of, let's say, 3 more scenarios in which data is getting generated, like 3 more examples in data, example of data in government, example of data in private companies, let's say 3 more examples. And in personal life, like these examples, what are the 3 more examples that you can think of? That is the homework number 1 that you need to do. Make sure you do it, because you will going to get a lot of good idea about it. The second homework which I want to give you is data in government, data in private, and data in personal life is basically 3 places which I told you the data is present, right? Tell me 3 more places where data is present, and with some examples in that. So higher level place where the data is present, and then what type of data that is present. So I hope you enjoyed this session, which is where the data is present. I want to make sure that you know everything that is related to the data analysis and get really good into the data analyst. With that, thank you so much for watching. I'll meet you in the third lecture.